Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our CalSIEC meeting this morning. Sorry for the late start. We were getting some audio issues resolved. I'm Shelley McMahon, formerly Shelley Hutchins. We're going to go ahead and get started. First item for our discussion is our roll call. So I'll just go down the line and see who's here. We got Robert, Mike, Grant. He should be calling in. Has Mike Grant called in? Okay. Weedy Hannibal? Okay. No? Okay. Well, we'll come back. I know Andy Smith's not here. Brent Finster is here. Present. David Schritt?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Mike Perez?
Present.
Maddie Medina? Nope. Derek Gard?
Present.
And Shelley McMahon, I'm here. All right. Should we wait to see if Weedy's called in? Okay, she is. All right, we'll go ahead and mark her as being present. All right. All right. The second item is approval of previous meeting minutes from our last meeting. There's copies of the meeting minutes in your folders. They were sent out yesterday as well. If you want to review them for a moment.
Prior to approval, I have one amendment.
The central area, the second line towards the end where it's XMB should be XMD. And it's the only correction I found for the central area.
Brent Finster, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as corrected.
Okay. Motion to approve?
I'll second.
All right. Meeting minutes approved. Okay. Next, we'll go into our planning area updates. If we want to start from Northern, do we have our audio issues corrected, Paul?
They can hear us.
So,
It's just a hard time for us to hear them.
okay, because, we'll start with, in the room, we'll start with Southern. Derek, if you want to give a Southern area update?
Sure. We had our most recent meeting 2 weeks ago, and in that we're reaching out to 2 areas that do not have their CalIFOG updates turned in yet. We also have our radio rodeo planned for November 12th, and we have a committee planning on that to work on outreach to get more jurisdictions involved. The ITSL course we were supposed to have in June was canceled. Getting the 300 prerequisite done was difficult for some of the people, so we've moved that to February or March timeframe. We're putting in a request for next year's TA project to be the TICP update. Also, some news going on just around the spas. Long Beach and Los Angeles PD and Los Angeles Sheriff are moving to a 700 megahertz trunk system. It's a big deal for them. I think it's the first update LA's done since the 70s. And that's about it that's going on.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Central Planning Area. Do you have any updates?
Yes. So our previous meeting was yesterday, August 20th. One of the topics was Next Gen 911 and just working within all the PSAPs to do some data sharing with a local mapping government agency, GIS, just to have that data interface, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page and everybody will be in compliance. We're still working on our XMD upgrade or phase 2. It's kind of hung up with some local agreements with some private industry just for radio placement on some of the facilities. Working on a intercom update, so at least within the county of Merced, each PSAP has an intercom frequency that they can go direct to, so get away from some of the phone calls. But with some of the upgrades that we've been making, some systems are going to have some additional upgrades, some of the PSAPs, so for that intercom channel. And then we're also looking at a countywide Everbridge and Nixle contract with all county employees uploaded. So in the instance of an EOC activation, we have that information up to date. So, end of report.
All right, thanks, David. Moving on to Cat Bay. Brent?
Thank you. Our last meeting was July 25th. It was held at the Alameda County EOC. We had a guest speaker, Cody Kerwin from Contra Costa County Fire, gave an overview of the ITSL course that was held that Contra Costa sponsored a week or so before that meeting. And there were 17 people that attended the course, and from all indications, it went very well and was well received. And then he took the opportunity to explain the changes that are being made on the NWCG side in terms of the information technology, the ITSS position, which is a service person that works for the ITSL, and how that's coming along. And there was a discussion in alignment with that in terms of the change to the ICS framework with the potential for the communications unit to become a communications branch within the logistics section that could be moved up to become a communications section based on ICS and its fundamental flexibility. So that was a good discussion. There was an interoperability gap discussion, which included talking about the IFAG update and reinforcing information back to CalOES that the individual planning areas would like to see that the written document or see the app's data prior to the time that it's published, so we can make sure that there's some consistency and that some of the things that were in the last IFOG update that clearly should have been updated are updated this time. There was quite a few errors that were published, unfortunately, during the last one, and because even with the app not being dynamic in terms of changes, and that there needs to be some sort of process to make changes. If there's a mistake found, it's not going to be corrected immediately. It will take some time to do that. So wanted to make sure that that gets vetted as much as possible. And there's some other comments we've got when we talk about the IFOG later in the agenda. We talked about operational procedures for the use of the mutual aid interoperability repeaters within specifically the Bay Area, and how that needs to be better coordinated and communicated in terms of who needs to be called to turn those on, to enable them, and the entire process for that needs to be worked through. There was another discussion having to do with sort of the IFOG, but it's a more general discussion. That is that a lot of the information, because it becomes stale so quickly, Caltrans suggested doing what they are now doing, which is to publish the position of a particular function instead of a name, and have a generic phone number like an office number instead of a cell phone number that's assigned to a personal phone, or a personally assigned phone, to make that so that it's a little bit more continuity, so you don't get the situation where information is put into an application or a database, and then it becomes stale because someone retires or leaves or rotates out or whatever. So we thought that that was a good idea. Talked a little bit about CASM and the potential for using that, as we tend to discuss at every one of our meetings. We know that the Southern Planning Area has done a lot more with CASM than our planning area. Talked about who was working on updates to their TICPs and ensuring, again, some sort of coordination in those. And there's, we put this meeting together, as we had the last couple of meetings, in conjunction with the Motorola Technical Radio Users Group, MTUG. And so they were nice enough to buy the attendees for both the MTUG meeting, which followed the Capitol Bay meeting, buy us lunch, and that was really nice. The MTUG meeting was really good. It was about an hour and a half of very good, solid training that those received. But we were having an internal discussion amongst the leadership of the Capitol Bay as to what we want to do in the future, whether we perhaps want to separate MTUG out or give other vendors the opportunity to sponsor our meetings. I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Brent. Do you think we were able to clear up our audio for our northern planning area for their updates?
Okay, let's try this again. The northern planning meeting, or the northern planning area is meeting tomorrow, the 22nd, in Tehama County. And part of our agenda will include the regional TICPs that we are putting together. We have submitted all of the information that we have, and out of 18 counties, we are missing 3 counties. But we're going to proceed because those 3 counties are having difficulty finding anyone who can provide us information. We're going to use as the basis of the regional TICPs information that was provided to us in their original TICP, which we did as the planning area. So we'll be meeting in December, 3 separate meetings, one for the coastal group, one for the valley, and then one for the mountain group. I don't hear the room any longer, so is everybody there?
We can hear you, Weedy, go ahead.
Okay. In addition to that, we'll be talking about the regional interoperability communications plan that is proposing. And I've already started to receive some letters of concurrence from some of the surrounding counties. In addition to that, we have our voting tomorrow to vote on 2 positions. And I think that's it. Mike, is there anything else that you can think of?
I think that covers it. TICP project being the biggest one.
Right. And I was listening particularly to Cap Bay and talking about being supported by some of the vendors, just as an informational only. I think that would be great, but in our area, counties have said they did not want to be supported by vendors because they didn't want to feel any pressure to purchase product from them. So all of our meetings and all of our lunches are everybody pays into a pot. We $10 a person and we bring lunch in. So that's how we do it. I think that's it for the north.
Thanks, Sweetie, for your update. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, number 5, we have the EFOG. Currently, the use agreements have been approved by CalSIEC and sent back to DHS. We will notify them when the IFOG is finished and being updated to go ahead and take that information and turn it into the Apple and the Google apps. So it's an awaiting pattern until we get the IFOG updated and published. Does anybody have any questions on on that, or when that might be? We're hoping, we're shooting towards.
When might that be?
Yeah, right? So well, it's current, we've received all the updates we've had from the counties that provided the updates. There's still a few counties that haven't provided their updates. We've reached out, they're in the southern area, and Derek is, like you mentioned, is working on getting that information. Absence of that, we would just basically use what's currently on the iFog if we don't receive their updates. So I anticipate that it should be done by, I'm shooting for the end of September at this point, for the completion of the iFog. So we've been working with DHS and Terry Coates, and she's very active in getting our updates and providing the updates and making the changes in the iFog. So we're working on that. Yes.
Shirley, Capital Bay discussed the iFog at length at our last meeting, and one of the points that was made was we had been told by Budge previously that this was going to be a public app. And there was some concerns about the balancing the piece about public right to know and transparency versus having the app being very useful in terms of having information related to, like I talked about with cell phone numbers and that sort of thing. There was, in fact, we even took a vote as who thought that it should be public or who thought it should be more of a confidential sort of thing. And it was sort of led to a discussion about perhaps we can do both. Perhaps, like I mentioned what Caltrans suggested about putting the position titles in instead of names and cell phone numbers, is to maybe have like a supplement to have all of the public information being office numbers and be, titles and it can be names as well, but to then have some sort of supplement that's a confidential, official use only type document that could be distributed through CalOES, that would have information that would be a little bit more detailed in terms of contact information and that sort of thing, that those that didn't feel comfortable sharing that information in a public venue like a Google app or something like that. Perhaps that would be a way to deal with that and make it more useful to those that need it in their worst of worst days, when we have the big earthquake or we have another campfire or Tubbs fire or something where they need information and they need it quickly, and they don't need to be scrambling going through a whole bunch of different lists of old information, or going through comm centers that are already too busy dealing with 911s and that sort of thing. Having a list that's got the information that's needed in a manner that is complete and readily accessible.
Okay, so basically an internal and external document that has that information, and then your suggestion is to put that in the app format then?
It could be, or it could be just a PDF copy that's sent out to, those people that are, like ComEls and that sort of thing that have a need to know, or, have it go through the tactile communications group, that how you get that information is you go to your local CalOES telecom person and get that from them, because they know the people and can, sort of vet who gets that distributed information.
Okay, I think we could maybe put this as another subject to discuss and talk and see how that would work out, because worst case scenario, they get the wrong document and then we have two floating out that has we would have to figure out how that would work going forward. So I thank you for that suggestion, and we'll definitely take a look at it. So, all right, thank you. All right. We'll move on to the next agenda item for technical assistance request updates. Paul, can you forward the slides to our TA updates, and I can go kind of down the line? Okay. Right here. So our first one is our operational communications assessment. This is the a TA request where we're working with the Tahoe Basin to approach a multidisciplinary dispatch center. So we met in Tahoe with various law, fire, and EMS and other agencies on July 2nd. where we discussed the need or the issues or the present in Tahoe, especially during their, various holiday vacation seasons and the challenges they face. We met with SEIC, they came out and we discussed that. They had a tour of the area of the different communications paths that they have for their Department of Transportation, how they can tie that in for information to dispatch centers. And currently SAIC is working on getting contact information from the various dispatch PSAP areas and doing an assessment at each PSAP to see what their needs are, what they would like to see, if they would like to be part of a multidisciplinary dispatch agency. So we're in the preliminary assessment phase right now. We're looking to meet for a conference call on August 27th just to see where we're at. But we're just in the preliminary assessment phase right now with the different dispatch centers in the area. If you want to move on to the next one. All right, so this is a communication exercise for Capital Bay Planning Area, or COMEX. We're looking at combining that with Fleet Week. I think that's where we're still at with that TA request. Brent, do you have any updates?
I've had several discussions with Mike Paulette, who's the SAIC liaison for this particular TA request. And because of the timing and to perhaps allow for a opportunity for those from the COML class, which is being held in Kings County in, I think it's October or November this year, giving them the chance to perhaps get their task books signed at an exercise. We had thought about maybe a February date for that. I don't remember Fleet Week's dates.
I think that's
Sorry.
in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were not looking at doing something
Okay.
that soon. So he provided me with a list of items that we need to deal with from a planning area, and we're starting to go down that list, identify a location and identify a work group that can put together the scenario and the injects and that sort of thing. So we talked at this last Capital Bay Area meeting, started soliciting volunteers for that. We've got a list of half a dozen people that have said that they're interested in participating. So anyone that is in earshot of me, if you're interested in participating, we really would like to use you. So please let me know. And we are thinking about northern San Joaquin Valley or eastern edge of the Bay Area as a place where it would work for Central Valley people that are going to the COML class to come up, as well as for the Sacramento and Bay Area to sort of meet in the middle there somewhere. So working on identifying that location. So don't have a date yet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the update. All right, if you want to go on to the next TA. So our other TA is for alerts and warnings. There is a class that's coming up on September 20th. It's a SIMS group, but it's open for all. So if you are interested in attending this training class, send me an email. I can provide you the information, what the class is going to be about and the details. So we're moving forward on that one. Hank O'Neill is our contact as well, but again, he can just email me or him, and we'll provide you the information on that class. All right, so you have anything else to add, Henry, Hank? All right, boss, oh yeah, I'll have to make. All right, if you want to go to the next one. All right, so this is the TA for the COML course that's in the central planning area. Again, we have a class that's going to be November 5th through the 7th. If you'd like more information, I can forward you the flyer. I'm not sure where we're at with class size yet. I think it's open to about 20 participants. And just let me know and I can send you the flyer. And if you'd like a copy of these slides, you can send these out as well, so, yeah. Okay, if you want to advance to the next slide. All right, here's our IFOG again, we covered that. We're in our final review, pending any other additional information we receive from counties, but we're hopefully going to be done with our review and submit it to DHS by September for it to be completed. Yes?
Are we going to be sending that out to the planning areas for their review before we publish? I think that's suggested.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just to take one more, look at it, and then again, maybe incorporating some of the suggestions Brent made with providing a chance to provide, public information versus, internal information. That might be a good spot to have that conversation as well. Yeah. So definitely, we'll put that out for final review before we send it over to DHS for their final update. All right, if you want to go to the next one, Paul. All right, again, these are just an update on our classes. The Bay Area class for the TSL happened July 15th through the 19th. The one down south is going to be rescheduled to February, March timeframe. And the Incident Tactical Dispatch Training course is also still in the planning stages. It has not been, a date hasn't been given. The participant level has been not the greatest, so we're still working on dates for that. Yes.
We discussed this particular
Okay.
course at our meeting as well. And I had been in contact with Jamie Hudson because I had 3 dispatchers that I was going to send to that course. And it ended up that he had a whole bunch of cancellations at the last minute and had to cancel the course. So there was ended up being my 2 or 3 people that were left. So it was pretty frustrating, and I think it leads to a bigger discussion that we need to have within the community, and that is what we have got such a difference in terms of the participation and engagement in these courses that are free at no charge, and we're either misidentifying what the gaps are and we really don't need these, or we're not doing a good job marketing them, or we've got some sort of issue, because we should have 100 people that'd be signing up this with all of the identified needs that we've talked about in terms of training people up and getting them ready to help out within their local op area, or their, for example, this is a TERT resource to go statewide to provide, mutual aid response. So something is amiss here, and I think that more time needs to be spent discussing what it is that is causing us to schedule these classes and then having to cancel them because of a lack of participation.
I think one of them, the challenges that we've heard is, again, the prerequisites for ICS 300 and how those classes are, either they fill up fast or they're few and far between. That's, one of the reason why the SPA had to cancel their course, and because of that very reason right there. So I don't know if we can work on getting a resource out there to getting more of those classes available as well. I think that was, that's one of the reasons why. Yeah.
And we have the ICS 300, we have one offering down in Southern California. It filled up like that. And so it leaves out a lot of people who could potentially. So there's gotta be a way for us to get that, just that basic class is a prerequisite for everything offered more often.
So perhaps that's part of the 2020 TA request.
Yeah, that would be, and we can definitely discuss what, our request for the next year going around with that. That's a good one to put on there. All right. So if we want to move on to the next agenda item. So for the commune credentialing, right now, we've met throughout the year for various discussing the credentialing, and right now it's with the SIMS Technical Working Group. They met on August 7th. It's in their area for review, and that's where it is right now. I also got an email from Budge where there's a potential talk in creating a law scope type class or credentialing unit as well, related to the various issues that law enforcement agencies dealt with during the campfire and the communication issues that they had. So we're exploring creating a working group for law scope as well. And that's what I have for that. Does anybody have any comment they'd like to add?
Sorry to hog the microphone.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of estimate from the SEMS working group in terms of how long they're going to have that until we get something back from them?
I'll have to follow up with them. I know that they had a meeting and it was postponed, and then it was it was on August 7th. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, so I'll have to follow up with them to find out where they're at with that. But I'll get that out to you. You're welcome. Okay. Want to go to the next slide? Okay, again, this is where we're discussing our upcoming for next year technical assistance requests. So we'll be putting out an email identifying the different requests that are available and soliciting input from the planning areas on what you guys would like to have. Typically, we submit 5 requests. Try to at least have 1 per planning area. But we will, send that information out and ask for your feedback and input. And we will work with DHS on next year's TAs. All right, so our agenda item number 8, broadband services in California. So just wanted to provide an update that moving forward, our CalFriend board meetings will be meeting twice annually instead of quarterly. So our next meeting is going to be November 20th timeframe. I'll have to get the exact date to you, but I believe it's November 20th. So we'll be getting the agenda out for that. We're continuing working with AT&T and FirstNet and getting input to our 30 sites that California has input for build out through California. We met with AT&T and FirstNet last week. They're continuing their build out. I think they also provided a roadmap where they're at and where they're going for FirstNet. So if you're interested in that document, I can go ahead and forward that out to the members of where they're planning on going, where they're at right now. There's also a state contract that will be out for other first responder broadband services for first responders for other carriers. That's CalNet 19.2. We're just working with the carriers on their catalog pricing, and once that's done, it'll be available for view as well. So once that is available, I'll send it out to the members of the planning areas. Let's see. I think that's about it right now for broadband services. We do have a new supervisor that will be reporting to over our unit starting September 2nd, and that's Hank O'Neill, who's sitting at the back of the room. So he will be over our broadband services division and our new emergency communications division. So please welcome him, and you'll be seeing a lot more of him coming in the future. And we'll be working with him closely on our emergency support function in a state operations center, as well as he'll be assisting with the SWIC duties with Budge, and again over broadband services moving forward. So congratulations, Hank. And that's all I have for broadband services. Anybody have any questions or anything to add? Okay, so looking for agenda items for future meetings. We do have, well, let me do this and then I'll go on to another item that was brought up. And we can keep this format, but if there's anything else you'd like to add for our next meeting, or if you want to email me, if you don't think of it now, we can add it to the agenda for our next meeting. All right. So one thing that was brought to our attention yesterday, and it was emailed out late, so apologize for the late notice, but it has to do with the Butte County's operational area communications guide. I'm pulling up the email now, so my apologies. They're soliciting input for use of certain channels and further interoperability guide, and we'll need to provide input and vote on that. And it was sent out with yesterday's meeting notes, so it is in your email, so if you guys want to take a look at it, we'll have to approve it through our planning areas, and then we'll have to get approval from our FCC frequency coordinator, John Lemon, and then ultimately Robert will need to provide an email and send it out for approval. So I'll send that out in a separate email so you can have a chance to take a look at it and provide input as you see fit, and we'll go forward with the voting after the review process is done. Again, I think Weedy mentioned that tomorrow they're going to be discussing that as well in their Northern Planning Area community meeting. So I'll send that out. And does anybody else? No, you did. You sent it it was sent last night with the meeting notes. It's an attachment within the meeting notes. If you want to take a look at it, again, I could resend it out as well. So you have it fresh in your inbox. And that's it. Do we have any public comment for matters not on the agenda, in addition to what I just said? All right. All right. Well, thank you. Do I say meeting adjourned? Meeting adjourned?